Hi there. Welcome to what is going to be the first of a longer form video. My first time going down this road, so we'll see what happens. I'm going to want your feedback. Let me know how it goes. What do you think? What do you want to know about, etc. I'm kind of just starting this thing off, and we'll see how it goes. But the idea is to do more of these long form videos as we go. So feed me with topics, questions, ideas. I'd love to hear them. Today, I think what I want to talk about is overwhelm. And I think that's something that everybody experiences, obviously, at some point or another. But I think as business owners and as business leaders, we often feel as though we shouldn't feel overwhelmed if we are to be able to consider ourselves of a certain quality or to be successful. We shouldn't feel overwhelmed. We should have everything under control. And that's just simply not the case. I was actually just reading something the other day on McKinsey and how they had polled a number of the most successful CEOs in different industries, and the one of the key takeaways of that is they go through all the same problems all the time. They just have to manage them, and they've learned to manage them. So it's not about not having overwhelm; it's understanding what to do about it. So in this video, we're just going to talk about that a little bit, offer some ideas, and feel free to jump into the comments and throw out your own ideas or agree, disagree, whatever you think, whatever you see fit. But let's jump in here. Now, obviously, I think one of the things, again, we have to get out of the mindset of is that overwhelm is bad or it's wrong or it's something that we should never experience. In fact, it's completely natural. As the owner of a business or as any sort of a business leader, obviously there's a lot of responsibility, there's a lot of complexity, and it's all on you, right? Like especially if you're the business owner, then you don't have that person above you to turn to or to defer that responsibility to. Yeah, you might have mentors or whatever, but when it comes down to the decision making, it's all on you. And so there's naturally going to be times on a regular basis where you're going to feel that kind of overwhelm. You're constantly running into new things that need to be learned or that need to be done, that whether you're struggling and you're trying to figure new things out or whether you're growing. With growth comes new ideas, new projects, new innovations, whatever it may be. And that comes with new things that you have to do. And that just adds on to your plate. I've often spoken to my wife at times. It's like, yeah, I'm feeling overwhelmed. It's all good things, but I'm feeling overwhelmed by it all right now. Because even when things are going well, it can be a lot. So, there's marketing, there's finance, there's sales, there's liability things, there's technology things. I mean, technology alone, it's just the rate that it's, trying to keep ahead of it, right? There's so many different things. And so what happens to us when we're in that frame of mind? Well, a lot of things. Ironically, though, I don't think this is unusual for me. I often find that when I'm overwhelmed, I actually become less productive. I don't know where to start, so I don't start. I just end up kind of sitting still or, kind of spinning in place or jumping around from thing to thing or wasting time on different things. And that productivity actually just slows, which of course then, you recognize that and you realize that, and that gets you more annoyed or stressed or frustrated and just kind of puts you into kind of spiral mode at times. Because you don't know where to start and nothing feels like it's the right direction. And so it just snowballs from that point, right? So what can we do? There's a lot of ideas. I feel like for me personally, this is something that I've had more success recently. Not in not experiencing it, but when I do experience overwhelm, I can kind of look at it in the right light and deal with it pretty quickly, actually. And part of that is because it often feels worse than it actually is. My former boss and a longtime mentor of mine by the name of David McEachern. I don't know if it's his analogy or if he borrowed it from someone else, but what he used to sort of relate it to is like if you think of a riverbed, and if the rocks of the riverbed are the things that you need to keep in front of you, the things that you need to be able to see and keep track of. And so overwhelm is when the water level has risen and you can't see the rocks anymore. Well, the thing is, as he used to say, is it only takes a little tiny bit of water to cover up those rocks completely. And his point in saying that is sometimes it can only be, one or two things or a very small percentage of too much compared to what our capacity is that can put us into that mindset of, oh my goodness, I'm drowning. I don't know what to do. It feels like you're under 10 feet of water, but it really might just be like an inch. And so part of what that is, recognizing it and kind of taking some time to really understand where that's coming from. So the first step, as I just said, recognition, not only just recognition, but acceptance. I think one of the other things that we all have a tendency to do, whether it's ego or it's because, I'm a business owner, I shouldn't feel this way or whatever, is we can, first of all, we'll react to it negatively. We'll get frustrated at being overwhelmed, which doesn't help anything. Or we'll try and kind of bury it or pretend it's not there, which is also not helpful in any way, shape, or form. So the thing that we want to do more than anything is we want to acknowledge that it's there and accept that it's there. And just don't treat it like some sort of shameful thing. It's like, oh, that's interesting. I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. That's interesting is another thing I borrowed from David, my former boss, still one of my mentors. You look at it objectively. You look at it just like a thing on the table of be emotionless about it as much as you can. Just say, oh, that's interesting. I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. I accept that and let's move on from it. Another person who talks about that in a bit of a different framework is Tara Brach in her book Radical Acceptance. She talks about taking the pause, and she utilizes this not just for overwhelm, but anytime you're feeling your emotions are running high in whatever shape or form, in a good way or in a bad way. Just take a pause to just step back and acknowledge and observe it and go, oh, that's interesting. I'm really frustrated right now, or I'm really overwhelmed right now, or I'm really hyperactive right now, whatever it may be. And just that pause and of just stopping for a second and acknowledging what you're feeling and why, and taking a second to go, okay, I wonder where that's coming from. It immediately reframes it in your brain and kind of calms things down a little bit. So like I said, you want to look at it, you want to accept it, kind of welcome it like an old friend, because we've seen it before, and don't try and push it away. Don't try and deny it. Don't as much as possible, easier said than done, don't let it frustrate you that it's there. It's there. Okay, let's accept it and let's move on. Part of that taking a pause or acknowledging it is just taking a few seconds to just breathe. I'm going to frame this the wrong way because I'm not an expert in this field, but I know you hear it from so many different sources that just the act of breathing does something to our, I don't know whether it's the sympathetic nervous system but it just does something to just naturally calm us, right? So take a few moments, take a few relaxing breaths, meditate if that's your thing. It's something that I've dabbled with at different times and I find it helpful. Just something to just kind of clear out the clutter of your brain and just shut out the noise for a little bit and to give yourself an opportunity to revisit it in a healthier kind of frame of mind. So then once you've acknowledged it, okay, it's there. I accept that it's there. I know that it's there. Now what do I do? Well, I think the first thing for me, the next step is okay, trying to identify where it's coming from. And not trying to fix it yet, but just trying to understand it. So I will, at this point in time, try and get things out of my head. Another book that I've read that I really like, it's called Getting Things Done by David Allen. And one of the great lines in that I've always held on to and I've always offered to people is, and I'm probably going to get it somewhat incorrect, but your brain makes a shitty office. So if you can't carry a lot of details and a lot of information and things in your brain, because that's where the stress starts to come from. That's what starts to keep you up at nights. So I will first want to just dump everything out of my brain. And usually it's at a high level, like what projects am I working on, what high level obstacles, hurdles, things that I need to overcome, just what's going on in my life. And that can include work, hobbies, family, anything and everything, because it all contributes, right? It's not just exclusively related to what your business life is. So I'll usually, whether it's a whiteboard or like something on a tablet that I can just scribble on. I've done it before where it's more, like digital, like more formally typing, like a Word document or like a mind map. There's something about the visceral act of writing, and believe me, I'm the first person to say that, I don't have legible handwriting, to say the least. I think on a good day, maybe I can understand what I've written, but there's something about that physical act of actually writing it yourself that I find just kind of adds to the helpfulness of all of this. So like I said, I'll get a whiteboard, big sheet of paper, a tablet that I can just freeform on it, and I'll just start writing things down. I've got this going on with the house. I got this going on with the family. I got these 3 major projects on the go. I've got tax returns coming up. I've got whatever, anything at all. I'll put it all down. And I might categorize it. I've got a couple of different businesses, so I might kind of categorize it like family, business 1, business 2, house, whatever. So I'll put all those things down, and then I'll just kind of anything that comes into mind related to that. So perhaps with a certain project, maybe there's a specific deadline coming up, or there is a certain critical milestone that needs to be overcome, or with a certain business, maybe there's a certain thing coming up, like I said, doing taxes or hiring somebody or whatever it might be. So I'll go through all of those things and I'll just dump it all in front of me. Then once I've done that, I'll kind of just stop and I'll take a look at it. And usually, for whatever reason, even I don't usually give any thought to how I organize it when I write it, or details to include or not include. Is really just open go. But yet, for some reason, because I guess it's my brain and I understand my brain, hopefully, once I've done that, I kind of start to see. It's like stepping back, right? They say you can't see the forest through the trees. So I step out and I can kind of see the forest a little bit. So then I can start to look at it objectively. I can and it's because now it's in front of me. It's not swirling around in my head. So it's easier to take the emotion out of it. It's easier to take the frustration out of it and look at it as an object sitting on a table and kind of analyze it. And then I start to look at, okay, what are really truly the important things? Where do I really need to put my focus right now? There's another book that I'm reading right now called The One Thing by Gary Keller. And it's all about that. It's not about, eliminating everything in your life to just have one thing, but it's all about focus. And it's definitely about, decluttering and getting some things out of the way that are superfluous. But it's just making sure you have a clear understanding of what is, at any given time, what is the key one thing that you want to focus on. So that's a great book to check out as well. I'll put all these book references in the comments or in the description. So I'll look at everything and okay, that has to get done. Some things are going to be, low workload, but high priority or high importance. Like maybe it's okay, this has to get done in the next week, but it's not going to take much effort. So that's some low hanging fruit. And then it's okay, what are I usually look for 1 to 3 things that are the source of that I can identify as like the main source of my overwhelm or the biggest opportunities to remove it and kind of settle things down. And it's like I said, it's only usually a couple of things. So I'll look for those, and sometimes it's really scrutinizing. It's like, okay, do I really need to do that right now? No, I can put that off. I can push that over. I can delegate that to somebody, whatever the case may be. Just push it all away, and then I'm left with those 2 or 3 things. And already at this point in time, usually by now, that sense of overwhelm has dissipated. If it's not gone completely, it has definitely been reduced dramatically because I have a direction and I know what way I want to go. And then in the coming days or weeks, the nice thing about it is as I'm going through my day, yeah, I'll have appointments or I'll have, some things that need to be done on that given day. But when I hit a point in my day where it's like, okay, I've got time to work on whatever I need to work on, it immediately goes, okay, A, B, or C, go. Or maybe it's like, okay, great, we're going to spend a chunk of time on this, a chunk of time on this, and a chunk of time on this. And so I find that when that focus is narrowed down, I spend less time delaying on what should I do next. I also work faster because it's like, okay, I'm going to dial in on this one thing. Sometimes I'll set a timer. Like, all right, I'm going to spend an hour or half an hour on this. Timer, go. And then that kind of gives me a sense of urgency to really kind of lean into it and get things done with it. So that's kind of where I go from there. Then, so that's kind of to deal with it when it's there. Then there's some maintenance things that I try to do. I've gotten away from this recently, which is probably why I've been feeling overwhelmed a little bit more on occasion. This was something I thought I borrowed it from Tim Ferriss, author of 4-Hour Workweek, 4-Hour Cook, 4-Hour, etc., and has the Tim Ferriss blog, which is fantastic. You should check it out. And he talked about his 5-minute journaling routine. And I thought this was part of it, but I went back and checked, and this specific item wasn't there. So maybe it was I heard about it from somewhere else, or maybe it was my own evolution of it. But when I am in the routine of doing like a 5-minute end of day journal, one of the things that I'll usually put on there is what are the 3 things that are causing me the most stress right now? And usually it's pretty easy to tell, like, and when you're not in a state of overwhelm, obviously there are lesser things, but it's still good to be like, okay, what's weighing on my mind the most? And I'll just identify those 3 things. Well, that'll immediately inform my brain that, the next day, okay, do something, take a step involved with doing each of those things. And that one step is important, right? Sometimes it's not about getting the whole project finished or addressing whatever that source of overwhelm you identified, getting that all taken care of in a day. It's just about taking that first step, right? Just having a direction and feeling like you're making progress. Then you make that step, the next step becomes obvious, and you go from there. And that's, like I said, it's just feeling like you're taking control. You're taking back control of your situation, right? You're pulling it back into your hands. And like that alone, just that sense of, maybe it's an illusion at times, but it's that sense of like, okay, I've got this now. It's at least under my control, and I don't feel like I'm spinning around in a tornado of stuff that needs to get done. So yeah, identifying the 3 things that cause you stress, I think is really, really helpful. I think also from a maintenance standpoint, clearing the decks, getting rid of the clutter that can get in your way. So once you have that focus, this is a lot easier to do, but you start to look at it through a different lens of, okay, what's unnecessary? What can be delayed? What can be delegated, like I said before? And it's surprising sometimes how much can be what we think is important that can be put off. Sometimes you don't realize it until like, oh, I haven't gotten to that, but oh, that hasn't been a problem, so that's fine that it's been delayed. But yeah, you want to look and say, okay, I don't need to do this right now. What can I put off and not cause a lot of problems? For me, also distractions. Eliminating distractions is a big thing. So I personally, I shut off the vast majority of notifications on my phone. I don't want to get a beep every time I get an email. Text messages, I do. But like anytime I download an app and it's like, sign up for notifications. No, block, shut it off. I don't want any of that stuff. Because I know myself, I will either delete or put time restrictions on social media apps or other things that I know I'll go down a rabbit hole of doom and waste a lot of time on. And I'll say no to things. And sometimes that's hard because they might be interesting, they might be fun, they might be appealing in some way, shape, or form, but it's not where your focus really needs to be. Like I had something just come in the other day. I had a coaching request come in, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, that would be fun. And then I stopped and I thought about it. I was like looking at the date of when it would fall and what it would involve, not just in terms of my schedule and everything going on around that time period, but also thinking about my family. I've got 2 young kids. So I was like, okay, that's another trip. That's another time away. And you just start to realize like, no, that would be fun, but either I need to say no to that, or I need to look at doing that another way that changes the burden. Maybe it's something I can, maybe I don't have to go there. Maybe I can do it virtually. Maybe I can do something else that just changes the burden that it puts on me. But it can be tough, because there are things that are exciting. There's always a shiny new penny that's there to look at and play with. But if you want to actually make progress in the things that truly matter to you, that's a necessary approach to take. So that's my current approach on dealing with overwhelm. I'm also the type of person, I'm always trying new things. My approach to things, my process for things is always evolving. Partly because I'm always interested in new ways of doing things that might help, but also I find just the idea of implementing new techniques or new tools or new ideas, that alone keeps things fresh for me and helps keep my brain engaged. So there's always going to be something new that comes along. I would love to know what your approach is, what your ideas are, what works for you when you're in this mindset. What do you need to do? Is it a food that you eat? Is it exercise? Is it whatever? Anything at all. I mean, sleep is a big thing, obviously. Exercise helps. So maybe those are things that you touch on as well. But I would love to get your ideas, have some discussion going. And if you are so inclined, I would love it if you would like or follow or subscribe to whatever forum you're watching this on, whatever social media app it might be. And because I would love to just keep conversations going, keep ideas flowing, and just have more ideas to do more videos like this. Would love to get your feedback. Tell me what you think. And I think that's it. I'll just stop rambling now. We'll wrap it up. Best of luck. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you soon.